Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Those of you who are watching our videos for the first time, myself and Cade being my husband, relocated to Ireland from South Africa about a year ago, and our channel has mostly been dedicated to sharing our journey of moving, what it's like living in Ireland, our travels from Ireland, and just in general all of our memories, and in between we've shared informational videos about things that come up that we thought would be interesting to share. Today's video is going to be on my journey of being a chartered accountant, living and working in Ireland. I have gotten a lot of messages and a lot of questions around my journey. What I thought I would do today is answer some of the most common questions I keep getting, either on LinkedIn, through comments on YouTube, and in my DMs on Instagram. So I thought I would do a video answering those questions, providing more insight, because I guess there's only so much insight you can provide as a response to a message. A little bit of background on my career. So I studied at the University of Pretoria. I did a BCom accounting honours. I finished at the end of 2016 and started my articles at Deloitte in 2017. I finished up at the end of 2019. Straight after that, I went to London on a 3-month secondment. Just being able to go on a secondment was so amazing. At the end of my secondment is when COVID hit the economy the hardest and when lockdowns started to occur across the world. And so my secondment was cut by 2 weeks and I left the UK to come back to South Africa. I took a month off and then started as an audit manager at the Deloitte Johannesburg office. And I was an audit manager for the most part of 2020, actually the rest of 2020. I made the decision at the end of my articles that I wanted to take the opportunity that Deloitte Johannesburg had offered me to be an audit manager and try that out and learn new skills, as opposed to going straight overseas. Most countries will take you straight overseas as an assistant manager or a senior. So I wanted to progress and challenge myself to be an audit manager. And so I decided to stay on in South Africa. It was probably one of the best decisions I'd made for me at the time, because if I look back in that period of time, it was a very difficult period of time, but it was also probably the period of time where I saw the most growth. I really learned a lot in terms of how to handle people, the technical competence that was required of a qualified chartered accountant, and all of those skills conveyed when I started to do interviews when I decided to move overseas to Ireland. So at the end of 2020, Kate and I made the decision that we wanted to relocate, and our number one option was Ireland. I interviewed for roles at the end of 2020, and I think maybe it's important to share some of the roadblocks like I had run into at that point in time when I was interviewing. So by this point, I had had experience of being an assistant manager in the London office and an audit manager in the Johannesburg office, and I was really hoping to make a parallel move. The problem that I was running into is that the timelines here are very different to the timelines in Johannesburg. So generally, on average, a person will do 3.5 years of articles in Ireland, and then they'll move to a qualified senior, then to an assistant manager, then to an audit manager. So by the time you're an audit manager, you have between 5 to 6 years of experience, whereas I was only coming up to 4 years of experience and I was interviewing for audit manager roles. Very easy for me to get my foot in the door in audit, and especially at a big four, it was very easy to get a job as an assistant manager. And to be honest, that was definitely something that I considered and was very willing to make that move, because I knew eventually I'd get promoted. But parallel to that, I decided that maybe I wanted to try something completely different from what I've done and see what it was like in a smaller firm. So I did interview at multiple firms, and I think my decision ultimately probably came down to the offer that was on the table. We were moving to a new country and it's very expensive, and so at the time I was getting better offers at smaller firms. And then secondly, the gut feeling you have when you do your interview about, you know, the potential people that you'll be working with. So after thinking really long and hard about it, I decided to make a move out of the Big Four into a smaller audit firm. And I saw a lot of opportunity there because these are growing firms where you put more of an entrepreneurial hat on, and you think about how can you contribute to making this business better and bigger. And I had a lot of experience from a Big Four that I could bring into that firm, and you know, I was very excited about that. That's actually what kind of got me it's what energized me at work. I wasn't there as just an audit manager. I was there helping with learning and development, heavily involved in, you know, standardizing the processes and the practices. And so much so that I was so heavily involved in the work outside of audit that I realized that I did have a passion for the aspect of, you know, the technical, the training. I wanted to shift my career towards that aspect. Ultimately, the best opportunity came up outside of an auditing practice in a PLC, and when they offered me the role, I jumped with two hands. I was so excited. It was honestly the most exciting career move I've made to date. Shifting to today, as we've been posting on YouTube and I've been sharing that I am a chartered accountant, I have got a lot of messages, especially recently, with people reaching out and asking me, you know, certain specific questions. And so I thought I'd do a little bit of a Q&A on some of the questions that have come up and discuss them in a little bit more detail. So the first question that comes up quite often is around, you know, how I got into Ireland in terms of a visa. So for me personally, and I've spoken about this in some other Q&As, I have a European passport, and so I didn't have to stress about getting a visa. I just needed to secure a job before I got to Ireland from a financial perspective, not from a visa perspective. But I do have friends who are chartered accountants who have been eligible for critical skills visas, and mostly they have gotten them through a Big Four. Audit firms in Ireland are definitely sponsoring chartered accountants South Africa's. So that's an easy foot in the door. The next question is, has been around, you know, moving out of audit. So most chartered accountants know that it's very easy to move within an audit practice overseas. Big Fours will sponsor, you know, they sponsor relocation visas and everything that you need, and they get you set up pretty well. But with that being said, I do know a lot of chartered accountants after their articles, they realize audit is not for them, and therefore they don't want to commit to an audit firm just to move overseas. They'd rather move overseas outside of audit. You know, out of my friends that are chartered accountants, my friends who have passports and the right to live and work in Ireland have easily found jobs outside of audit. And I think it's because they don't have to worry about getting the firm on board for sponsoring them. With that being said, I do not think that it is a problem to get a visa outside of an auditing firm. It's just going to be a bit more difficult than audit. This is where I do need to put a disclaimer. At this stage of my career, most of the people I know have gone the Big Four route in terms of getting visas. So I'm not very sure on people who haven't gone the Big Four route, but I do know that it is possible and there are options there. There are lots of options in Ireland There are a lot of job opportunities here, and so I think for the right candidate, most firms will upskill themselves in the visa process, and therefore if you're the right candidate, they will take that into consideration. What I will say is that if you don't want to stay in audit, do upskill yourself on the visa situation so that when you are in an interview process and the employer doesn't know that much, you can take charge and say, all I need is for you to give me a job offer. And when you give me the job offer, this is what we need to do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. Recruiters are also probably, your best friend. And I would say to any chartered accountant, find a recruiter that you trust and that has your best interests at heart, because at the moment, some recruiters are very focused on, they just want to place you in that role without taking into account your future prospects in order to just, get their numbers for the month. And it's a sad reality. The next question I've gotten is around what the work environment is like here in Ireland. This one is a tough one to answer, because I felt like for the first year of me working in Ireland, I never went into an office, so it was difficult to compare the work environment to South Africa. But I did engage a lot with people over Zoom, and all of my interactions were very positive. I feel like Irish people in general are very easy to get along with, and so it was a very healthy work environment for me. The work-life balance, although in audit it's sometimes, it does get a bit difficult to have that work-life balance because there is so much work. But in general, I feel like the work-life balance here was a bit better than the work-life balance I had in South Africa. And this is just more in terms of the expectations on me to work over the weekend. Like, I think you work hard during the week, but there was no expectations from any of my superiors for me to be online on a Saturday or a Sunday. Whereas in South Africa, I did feel that expectation to work over the weekends. I have worked long days, early mornings, late evenings, but I think I'm completely okay with working those hours, because as long as I know that it's kind of contained to those pinch points of a year. I have worked with many different people from different backgrounds, which is very exciting. Not something you see in South Africa. In South Africa, you generally work with other South Africans, whereas here you work with people from different parts of the world. I've worked with people from India, from America, Brazil, and then obviously worked with a lot of Irish people as well. So it's very interesting getting to know different people from different backgrounds. Another question is the CASA designation recognized in Ireland? And would you need to register with another institution? At no point since being in Ireland have I felt like I needed to register with an institution recognized in Ireland, because I felt like the people who have come before me, so the chartered accountants who have come before me, have set a good reputation for the designation here. So people know about chartered accountants from South Africa. I do know that Chartered Accountants Ireland and Chartered Accountants South Africa have an agreement where they recognize the profession. So you can register with Chartered Accountants Ireland as a CASA, meaning that you can pay the fee to be a Chartered Accountant Ireland. You can have the CAI designation. That is obviously very much recognized here in Ireland to be a CAI. I don't think it's a necessity to pay registration fees for two institutions, but the option is there if you want it. The next question is, I've gotten actually more questions on this than I expected, around people who have not yet passed the APC exam, so the final board exam, but they've finished their articles and they've finished their degree, and obviously they've passed board 1. In this case, these people are eligible to register as an AGASA, and the question is around, can you get a critical skills visa as an AGASA? So do you count as qualified? This one was really tough. When somebody asked me this question for the first time, I really had to spend some time researching it, and I still couldn't come up with a definitive answer. And so if there's somebody watching this video who knows the answer for certain, please do comment. But the outcome of my research was pretty much that I think you'd be entitled to a visa, but a general work permit as opposed to a critical skills work permit. The key difference between a general and a critical skills is, the biggest difference is that with a general work permit, you can't bring anybody over for the first 12 months. So you have to come over by yourself for the first 12 months, and then only can family follow. On a critical skills, your family can come with you immediately. My washing machine.
2,000 years later.
Okay, I'm back. Then the last question is around doing your psycho articles in Ireland. And as far as I'm aware, and I'm not entirely sure about this, just the last that I did know about this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or if it's changed in the comments, please do. In order to do or to get qualified as a chartered accountant, you need to do your articles at a psycho approved training firm. At the moment, I don't know of a single firm in Ireland who has been approved by psycho as a training firm. I definitely know that Deloitte London is a psycho approved training firm, and there's a lot of people who do their articles there. But I don't know about the Big Four currently in Ireland, whether they've made that move. I think that concludes the Q&A. There's actually quite a lot to unpack in this topic. And so I'm aware that maybe I haven't answered every single question. If there are other questions, pop them in the comments and I'll answer over there. And if there are a lot of questions that I missed, then maybe I'll do another Q&A. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was informative and that you enjoyed it. Until next time.